Today, we're going to have a conversation about women in leadership in 2025 and beyond. And I wanted to bring you this um, conversation because we focused so much on how to, when, what in breaking that glass ceiling. And there have been tons of cracks put in, and in many areas, the ceiling's been broken. I mean, look at what's happening with elections now for president. The question is, we've spent a lot of time focusing on breaking through. What now? What do we do? What are the trends that will be affecting women who play so very important leadership roles in business, in philanthropy, in nonprofits, in the home? What's up in terms of those key issues that will be affecting us? And what about the skills and traits and talents that we're going to need in order to make sure that that glass ceiling stays broken? Well, not that it just stays broken, but that we build a new rooftop. We build a new ceiling. Well, I'm going to say that we build something that's got a skylight on it, in it, so that we can see far beyond that ceiling. But what do we have to do to be ready for that? To help others be ready for it? And so that's the conversation today. And so for those of you I haven't had a chance to meet, I'm Dr. Geneva, leadership strategist and mentor, top leadership voice on LinkedIn. I have a 4 decades career in running nonprofits, have raised over $100 million for community and business causes, established over 50 public private partnerships, and I help leaders, especially women in leadership roles who are over 50, clarify their goals and figure out their next steps in their life and career. Because so often, high achieving women over 50 struggle with or are uncertain about what to do next in their life and career. So I give practical advice and strategies to help them do that. And I'm going to tell you, in all my time, I have never seen an environment like we're in right now for women in leadership. There's something in the air that's going on. It's a fabulous time. It's a great time. It's a vibrant time. Well, we got to be ready. And in order to be ready, we need to know what's next and prepare for that. And I could not have that conversation, bring this great value to you without the 3 sisters that I'm getting ready to bring on the stage now. I just want to say hello to all of you. I see our hellos coming in. Love you. So about 4, 5, 6 months ago, time is a little, okay, I was invited to participate in this discussion with a group, a national group known as Leadership Women. And from that moment on, I became enthralled and I became a cheerleader for not only this organization and what they do, but the individuals that I got to know. And I'm bringing you the top leadership of this national organization, the first and oldest national organization, leadership development organization for women. So let's first meet Lee Ellen Banks, who not only is the CFO of Diversified Interiors, but also is the chair of the board of Leadership women. And want to say hello to you, Lee. And you coming in from Texas, aren't you? And it's about early day in the morning, isn't it?
It is nice to see you, Dr. Geneva. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Next, I want to introduce the president and CEO of Leadership Women, Linda Crompton, who's coming to us also from another time zone. So I just appreciate my sisters, Lee and Linda, for being here. Linda is as you know, the staff person of an organization is always that energy, that day to day. That leadership is so incredible. I'm so delighted that Linda is here and great to see you again.
Thank you. Good to see you too. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you. And then last but not least, my sister friend, Rosalind Denning. Now, Rosalind is a board member of Leadership Women, but also the president of Reed Consulting Service. But I've got to say, she's got a special place in my heart because she's the daughter-in-law of one of my first mentors when I started my career. And I would not be anywhere, have anything, if it wasn't for my mentor. And so, Rosalind, love you so much. Rosalind is coming to us from Detroit. How you doing this morning?
I am well. Thank you so much for having me and love you back.
Thank you. So let's get into it. I mean, this could probably be an hour or two conversation. So I've got some questions that I want to ask. But for those of my audience and others live and on the replay who I don't know if you all can hear me on my TikTok community, but again, I'm going to come to you in a special session. Tell us first, for those who might know, what is Leadership Women? What is the organization? Linda, can you help us with that?
Sure. So, Leadership Women, Inc. Was formed almost 50 years ago in the state of Texas by the then Governor Ann Richards and a group of 7 sort of feisty Texan women who were tired. A lot of them were educators, and they were tired of reading textbooks that made no mention of women at all, as if no women had played any role in any of the development of the state of Texas. And so they banded together, they started to get involved and have their conversations, and they decided that it was time to create an organization specifically to address the lack of women leaders and programs to support women leaders. And that was almost 50 years ago, and we're still going today.
Mm-hmm. It's just amazing. And I appreciate those beginnings. And back then, again, when we talk about role models, people like Ann Richards and Barbara Jordan and other phenomenal Texas women, I just want to, again, express gratitude for all of that. So, Linda, so you've been heading up this organization, major work that you do. I know when you came into to Detroit, it was with one of the specific programs you have called Leadership America, and you go around to different cities. Tell us about that and what you're finding as you go around across the country.
Sure. So the way we operate, the way Leadership Women is structured, is that we have a number of programs that are all designed to address women at various stages in their leadership journey, for lack of a better term, right? So we have programs where we speak to women at the college level that are, considering what possibilities there might be for them. And then we have statewide programs, and we have Leadership America, which is the program that you're referring to. And we also have programs, Leadership International, to introduce women to other women leaders in other parts of the world. and Leadership Encore, which is designed for women who are contemplating or even just beginning to plan what might be next after their working career.
Mm-hmm.
In another capacity. So Leadership America, which is the one that you're referring to, what we do is we take women to 3 different cities through the year, and we introduce them to women leaders in those cities and give those leaders a chance to talk about what their challenges are, what they're doing, how they do it. Because part of our ethos, I guess, is that we believe that you learn best when you are in the company of other women leaders who can share their experiences with you, that can tell you what's worked, what hasn't worked, what were their challenges, and also because we have a very strong, and by strong I mean more than 8,500 women network. And now those leaders that spoke to you are part of that network, and so you can contact them. So what we do is we go to those cities, they meet those women, and they find out more about what is going on in the city. What are the leading issues? Because if I was to boil our, kind of plan down to a few nuggets, it's that we believe in the power of networking and right, having connections to other women. It's also that it's hard to lead in an increasingly complex world when maybe the last sort of significant reading or learning you did was back in college, right?
Okay.
Since then, you've been working in, I don't know, accounting, and so all of your training comes from through that lens. And we think that you need to know, to be a good leader today, you need to know the big issues, what's going on in your country and who's leading it. And so through Leadership America, that's how we introduce you to those speakers and those issues.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. Networking. I heard networking, again, that high value importance, not only of the 8,500 plus women that you all have networked, pulled together across the country, but also the importance of us as women in knowing, understanding, and practicing the art of networking.
Absolutely.
And then the lifelong learning. So, which I heard too, because so often we can get in our particular careers and which is great and we're doing well. And there is so much else for us to learn. And
Dr. Geneva, may I say something on that note? I think the other thing that's important, my background is accounting. So most of the professional development I do is very focused on my career, on my craft, right? But the beauty of these programs is that I'm sitting with women that are in totally different fields. There might be another accountant. There could be a not-for-profit leader. There might be a female entrepreneur. There might be an attorney. There might be a manufacturing engineer. And the fact that we're relating to each other, looking at an issue that's not just in my lane, I think gives us a much broader perspective, and we get to share our perspectives with each other. And that may not be, I don't sit next to a manufacturing engineer every day. So that I think is another unique aspect of our programs, is it's so diverse in terms of women's backgrounds and careers.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so let's follow this path as we're talking about the kinds of, so networking, lifelong learning, the diversity of who you're meeting, who you're seeing, who you're now connecting with.
Right.
It's just incredible. What other things are you finding out as you travel across the country, but also in terms of your own research and your own work? What are the key trends and issues for women in leadership that we're finding? I want to continue to develop this list. Rosalind?
Yes. I'd be happy to answer that. I think that some of the issues that are coming is that women are leading in the health fields, in education. We're finding that women are leading in financial literacy. And one of the beauties that I like about the program is not only are we diverse in our careers, we're diverse in our ethnicity. I have seen leading women from the Asian community, from the Hispanic community in high profile positions. And so it lets all of us know that any woman can lead.
Mhm. 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 You know, that may have to be the rallying cry for 2025. You know, any woman can lead. And so, Lee, what else can we add to this list of the key issues and trends for women in leadership in 2025 and
I
beyond?
think one of the things that's important is that, you mentioned, Dr. Geneva, at the outset about mentoring, right? And so we need to take advantage of that. And you can have mentors, not just female mentors, but you can have male mentors as well. And I think we need to continue to focus on mentoring, and not just myself getting a mentor, but I need to be mentoring women and men behind me, and bring them forward. Um, and I think we need to continue that. Um, I think some challenges that we're having uh, is the whole, working remote, um, working in a silo, and we're missing out in the opportunities to make really good networking connections and social connections. And I think we need to put that in the forefront of what we're doing, because having conversations in person helps you learn things about other people and helps you address issues. And I worry about that a little bit. I was at a seminar earlier this year, and a CEO talked about his work from home policy, and he says, how many people actually raise their hand on a Zoom call and ask a question? Whereas if you're in person, I could walk down to my boss's office and say, hey, I don't understand that insurance issue. Could you explain it to me? So I feel like, in terms of leadership, we need to, as women, as just leaders, period, we need to be focusing on making sure that we're helping bring people behind us from a mentoring standpoint, and also helping them communicate and learn to communicate with each other.
Mhm.
The world is so divisive. We need to have conversations, even though they might be difficult. We have to continue to communicate.
Yes, point well made. So we've got this list going. Anyone else want to add to the issues and key trends list? Maybe also in terms of traits. I was doing some research and for an article that I'm putting out this week on LinkedIn about some of the talents and skills that we need for 2025. And it's interesting how everywhere, everything that I look at talks about authenticity and the need to collaborate and establish genuine connections. Is that something we should add? And are there other issues that we're seeing or trends that we're seeing in women's leadership?
Yeah, I think, if I could, Dr. Geneva, I mean, I think that is right. Authenticity. I also think, when we look at what's facing us, you framed it as what are the key issues and trends. I think 2025 is a combination of the new and issues that have been building over time. So I think in the category of the new, we now know kind of the impact of as the climate warms. We realize that 80% of the people that are going to be displaced as a result as the climate warms, and even at this stage where it's not reversible at the moment, 80% of those will be women. And then, therefore, of course, children, right? So the whole issue of what climate change is going to mean for women, I think, indicates we need more women who are involved in these issues, knowledgeable about these issues, and there are a surprising number of women who are very deeply involved and who have this information, and we need them to, to teach and to share that information. So I think it's a combination of new issues like that, and then some of the pervasive issues, which, good heavens, should have been solved by now, still significant challenges in terms of pay discrimination, right? I mean, lack of maternity benefits, particularly in the US, such a beacon of, of high standards on so many fronts in the US, admired around the world, but we still don't have maternity benefits. So who's working on that? And I think we need to see changes in those arenas, and many of them will be led by women. And of course, it depends on the part of the world that you're living in, which of these are your most pressing issues. But I think we still face, if you look at the World Economic Forum, and it just keeps pushing the number out. It's going to be 101 years before we see gender parity. It's going to be 110 years. I think now it's approaching 140 years before we see parity. So I think we need the skill sets and the drive and the knowledge of women from a variety of those fields to come and help guide us through facing these challenges of 2025 and beyond.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love how you position that going into 2025, we have the pervasive issues that have been with us, and as many strides as we've made, as many cracks in that ceiling that we've seen continue to be with us, like gender pay, the disparity in the genders between pay, and the whole question of pay equity. And then the new ones that you mentioned, such as climate change, and how important it's going to be for us to speak up, which leads me to the question of, well, what are the benefits of having women in these leadership roles and in positions to speak up? Is it something we want to encourage? Do we want to see more of it? What are the benefits?
Do you want me to take a stab at that first, or does somebody else? Okay.
Go for it, Linda.
Yeah. So I guess there's first of all, there's lots out on this now, right? What we know, what the impact is of having women involved in these issues. There's lots of documentation. We know that women leaders help to break down gender barriers and stereotypes, and we know there's lots of evidence that women drive innovation and collaboration in organizations. So if you look at, the most recent reports put out by the big consulting agencies, for example, they all say the same thing, that in general, the more women you have in leadership roles, the greater the organizational success. They know that now. We know that. And then I guess on a less tangible front, I would say my own personal belief is that insight is driven from the margins, never from the center. So if you're in the center, what's the problem? Everything looks pretty good, right? But from the margins, wherever that may be, whether it's the margins of women, or it has to do with women, like gender specifically, or gender and color, but margins, that's where you see what the problems are, and that's where the insights come from. So I think that's where women, in a way, have an advantage, because they don't sit in that position where they think everything's great, right? They know that everything is not great. And so we know that women drive innovation. We know women drive collaboration in organizations, and have faced difficulties they don't want other women necessarily to face. So, so I think it's an interesting sort of place in history to be, that we've got enough power as women, and we have enough women in positions of power to have an influence. Not enough in terms of our ideal numbers. We're still way behind in terms of boards of directors, etc. But we have lots of women now, powerful women, and you meet them in our various programs that are in a position to influence.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And Dr. Geneva, I'd like to add to that. We know that historically, women have been the backbone of families. They have been leading the family structure. They have been leading in the communities, and they've been tying together silently partnerships between families, other organizations. And so it's just a natural occurrence for women to be leading.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, that's so insightful and helpful. Both the uh, recognition of when we're in those fringes of disparity, whether it be in terms of pay or position, etc., that also is an opportunity to see where the real problems are. And for those of us in that space, how important it is to speak, to advocate, to come into rooms and meetings and talk about those issues. And then, Rosalind, the whole aspect of the naturally occurring collaboration, partnership building that is part of a woman's lifestyle
Yes.
that you talk about. Just really great. Lee, did you want to weigh into this?
No, I think they've addressed it quite well.
So as we talk about, hey, there's opportunity and disparity, and we can become advocates, and the natural collaboration, innovation that we have. Why aren't we doing it? What are the barriers for us as women in leadership positions?
I think that some of the barriers may be the fact that we as a whole are not using as much of our power to collaborate and to network. We do have organizations, we have sororities, and we have other organizations that bring us together, but sometimes they're not being maximized as much as they could. And so I think it's very imperative that we work stronger to work together, networking and collaborating and pulling each other up
Okay.
so that we can help each other move forward.
Okay. What other barriers are there, do you see? Linda, Lee?
Sure. Oh, Leon, did you want to say something first?
Sure. I was going to say one of the barrier challenge maybe is that I think women still are not used to asking for what they want and raising a hand and stepping forward and saying that they want more in their career. And so I think individually, we need to continue to encourage women to put in for that promotion, to ask for that, ask for the, the salary increase because they've earned it. And I try to think about that for me personally. And I think, yes, everything we're talking about is important, but women need to continue to ask to have a seat at the table and make a seat at the table.
Yes, absolutely.
And I would just add to that, I think that the persistent problem of unequal pay kind of creates, an imbalance for sure, but it also gives the impression of less value, right? You're paid less, you're therefore, of less value to the organization or not as worthy of the same kind of bonus and these are deep-seated gender biases and many of them are unconscious. So they're hard to overcome. But I do think the pay issue, the persistent pay issue is an ongoing barrier for women in terms of taking on leadership positions. And the only other thing I would say is that I don't want to fall into this trap that we sometimes fall into. We have to remember that it depends on which part of the world you live in, right? There are obviously parts of the world where it's impossible or downright dangerous to be having these kinds of conversations. So we have to have a lot of sympathy and help where we can in situations where women are not they're just nowhere near considered equal. At least in this part of the world, North America at least gives lip service to equality, and that's a great benefit for us, which we shouldn't forget that is not worldwide.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for again raising that, because women are at different places all over the world and facing different circumstances. That's why I think it's important to have conversations like we're having now, where we can talk about some of these issues, put it out, get some, the comments and feedback, and encourage the kind of discussion. So as we think about the barriers, some of the future new skills, old pervasive issues, things that are still going on. And you all represent an enormously incredible, powerful, potent leadership development organization. So tell us, how can women develop their leadership skills, especially for what is facing us in 2025 and beyond? Linda, you want to start us off?
Sure. I would say one of the most frequent conversations that comes up with our classes is the late recognition of the importance of training in technology. So there are certain fields that women have, historically not been encouraged to go into, but now starting to realize somewhat belatedly how important they are. So finance is another one. I mean, we're often quite surprised at, even very senior women in a classroom when confronted with some financial issues and questions, are kind of at sea because it's not something they know much about. So I would say it's important to develop those skills, develop an interest or fake an interest. But it is important to not to walk away from what have been perhaps traditionally male fields of finance, which you could argue kind of runs everything, and technology. I think we've already touched on the importance of strengthening numbers, making sure that you surround yourself with women who are going to be able to help you and you help them. One of the things you hear a lot about is the difficulty that women still face going on to corporate boards. I run seminars to train women on board service, and I constantly hear, I can get onto a nonprofit board, but how do I get onto a corporate board? And the big issue there is that we tend to go for we go for like people. So people look around the room and see a whole group of men and they think, oh, wait, my golfing buddy, he would love this board. He should come onto this board, right? People don't think necessarily outside of that. And so women get left out because most of the corporate boards in America, we know, are very, very male dominated. So extend your network, get some training. National Association of Corporate Directors does good training. Board Source does good nonprofit board training. Get some training. Put yourself out there to be on a board, and earlier on, if you can get yourself some financial training and experience, as well as some exposure to technology, particularly right now as it seems to be gaining speed. Those will all help you in terms of advancement.
Yeah, those are good, and I love the and so often, and today we can get access to the knowledge and the information easily.
Absolutely.
We can go online, we can, sign up for courses, you can go on YouTube to just get some of the basics.
Yes.
Finance accounting for the non-financial manager. You can learn about how numbers tell a story, and you can learn how to tell that story, no matter what field you're in. And certainly for the tech, and I think that's particularly important for women who are over 50, in their 60s, who have not perhaps grown up with technology as certainly younger generations have. You can learn it.
Yep.
You really, really can. You can find uh, ways to learn that. And yes, the advice, I saw a comment about the advice about joining a corporate board, but even the process of doing that can teach you so much. Lee or Rosalind, do you want to add or anything else in terms of
Sure.
developing leadership skills?
Yes, yes. I think also women should consider going and listening and learning more about the manufacturing industry.
Okay.
One of the things that we highlighted when Leadership America came to Detroit, we had women from non-traditional roles in the manufacturing area of General Motors speak. And some of them had some very high profile positions. And it was just so inspiring to see that they worked their way up the network to become leaders in the manufacturing industry and area. So I think that women need to consider getting some training on that. And I go back to the networking, working your network, surrounding yourself with individuals who aspire or will help you to reach what you aspire to be. That can be a wonderful, wonderful way to promote each other.
Yes, yes. And so for those of you who might just be joining us, either live or maybe this is the point that you're coming in on the replay, I am just delighted to be joined by the leadership of the national organization called Leadership Women, Inc., the oldest women's organization, leadership development organization for women. And I'm just delighted to have Linda Crompton, the CEO and president of the organization, the board chair, Lee Ellen Banks, and board member Rosalind Denning joining us in this very important conversation as we're looking at women in leadership in 2025 and beyond. Lee?
I lost my train of thought.
Well, we were talking about developing
Right.
women's leadership skills.
I remember. We also, here we go. When we were in Detroit, we had a wonderful presentation on artificial intelligence, AI.
Yes.
And no, depending on where you work or live or sit, I might hear about AI, how I could use it in automating my accounts payable process. Well, I don't know what that means, but what I took away from that presentation, I mean, AI is here. If we're not going to learn about it and accept it, we're going to be left behind. Mm-hmm. And there's something, the speaker also talked about fear. Mm-hmm. And we need to, whether as women, we need to walk through that door and not challenge the fear, but at least be open to learning what this is about so that we're maybe not as fearful. Mm-hmm. And so that was a big takeaway that I took from it, is that when I see something, whether it's work related or in my family life regarding AI or something that I may not know about, I should be open to learn about it. And I think just the fact that we're open to issues helps us with our leadership. Because the more you know, the more effective you can lead. And so I'm using that AI example specifically because it's both for my work and in my personal life.
Yes. I'm so glad, Lee, you brought that out as we think about the leadership skills that we need. That's an important one to add to the list of, knowing more about finance, technology, AI, and then continuing to sharpen and improve our networking skills. Mm-hmm. How, critical, how very important that is. And so we're talking about 2025 and beyond, and how we move forward and become and be, continue to be vibrant and incredible leaders. Well, what about the younger generation? What can we do? What should we be doing? What advice would you give to the next generation of female leaders? Ellen?
I have a comment, and this is
Ellen.
thank you. Thank you, Dr. Geneva. I think some of these topics we've talked about already, but is about mentoring and being willing to be mentored. Because some people may think they don't need to be mentored. I know everything. And I think we need to continue to encourage women to step forward, younger women to step forward and ask for what they want. Because if you don't ask, you don't get. So I think that's important. I wanted to talk about another related topic real quick.
Yes.
I found within my organization, in terms of developing professional development, not everybody's comfortable putting their stepping out of their comfort zone to try to learn something new. And one of the things that we're going to try to do here in my company is I love to do all these things and the networking. Well, I need to bring women with me. And so I've decided just recently that I'm going to, there's a big recognition here where I live for women of impact. And I'm bringing my team with me to go hear from six women leaders that are being recognized for their contributions here in El Paso. I want to expose my colleagues to this caliber of women. So I think that's something we need to do is we need to bring people with us to these things to give them more exposure.
That's a good point, Lee. Being very intentional about how we can expose and show the next generation of leaders matters. And it's a simple thing, and any of us in a leadership position can do that.
Exactly.
What else should we be doing? What other advice, Linda or Rosalind, would you have for the next generation of leaders?
I think that the next generation of leaders should also remember philanthropy. Also should remember to give back, to help in their communities, to help uplift others who are less fortunate, and to uplift other sisters, if you will. That's very important. Sometimes the younger generation becomes the me, and it should be more us, helping others as well.
And on that note, I would just add, I think a lot of people don't realize that when you look at it's extensive, it's a big field, but philanthropic giving in the US, less than 2% of all philanthropic giving goes to causes related to women and girls. 2%. So if you are in a position to be more philanthropic, then you might want to think about that and how your involvement and contribution can make a difference. And the only other thing I would add is just we do hear pretty frequently from women some disappointment that it feels like to them, or it may feel like to them, that women get to these positions, the senior roles, and then they want to pull up the ladder. And that they don't get the kind of treatment or welcoming or assistance that they think they would like. And so I think that that's not entirely surprising, given the past, how difficult it is for women to take on those positions, to get into a position of VP or SVP. But we just want to remind people, similar to kind of, I guess, the sense of both the comments from Leanne and Rosalind, is that, don't forget about the sisters behind you. And, you've achieved this position. Now look at who else you can help to get to where you are.
Absolutely. Over and over again, I hear the, best advice or things that we can do for the next generation, younger leaders, is to be that mentor, open the doors, just like those doors were
Yes.
open for us. In other words, to just role model what was done for us, because clearly none of us are in any of our positions alone. We didn't get there alone. So many shoulders we've stood on. Yes, so next generation leaders, we want you to know that one of the reasons we're having this conversation is so that you can hear it and prepare yourself. And one of the reasons why Leadership Women travels around the country in its Leadership America program is to hear from women in key cities and to do that role modeling. Is that not right?
Absolutely right.
There you are role modeling. And I know the issues, the sessions that I experienced, the issues that were brought up, the conversation was real and authentic.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. Would you agree, Linda?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a big part of our platform. You know, when we talk about what we bring to the table, it's, of course, it's the information, you know, that they're hearing about. But the other piece of it is the perspective of the person delivering that information. So they need to see, you need to see other women, you know, we show them and talk, and they get to talk to other women astronauts, you know, women in all of these positions that, you know, that you don't routinely think of women as being in the lead of, but I think that's an important part of this whole process of beginning to envision yourself as a leader. I mean, I think I can only speak for myself, but when I was, you know, first in school, you did not, in school and in you know, university, and then your first job, you didn't see yourself as a leader because there were no women leaders around you, right? So that's what we provide, and I think it's very important.
One of the questions I wanted to ask that's come in, I'm seeing on the list of questions, it would be a good one for us to respond to as we're wrapping up on our time, but I do want to get your quick response to this. What's a good way to ask for more exposure from leadership? And I'm thinking, what's a good way to ask for more exposure from leadership? That's probably from your leader or getting more exposure as a leader. However you see that question, let's answer it from whatever perspective you might see it. What do you think, Linda?
I mean, I guess the first place you would go to is your immediate, you know, who you report to, your immediate bosses, and there's the HR department. What are the opportunities for you? Sometimes it's a question they don't even necessarily know who's interested, and so it's kind of the case of the noisiest person, you know, gets the attention. So you know, you want to make it. It shouldn't be a secret that you want to advance. Obviously, if you've only been in your position for 3 months, you know, you don't want to jeopardize that. But you know, I think it's key to make sure that people know you do want to, you are prepared to take on more responsibility, and you want to hear, you know, what I need to do in order to be ready to do that. I was very fortunate. There were no other women leaders when I was in banking way back in the day. But I made sure that I talked to the person that I reported to, who was a male, and I just said, I know there's no other, you know, women managers, but I would like to be a manager one day. And he said, oh, I mean, as if it was, you know, gosh, what an idea.
Right.
And he said, well, I can help you with that. I'll make sure. Have you taken this course that they offer? And so you have to make sure that people know, you know, and that you put your kind of ambition, if you like, out there, that's what you want to do.
Absolutely. I think that's a great one, and so simple to express how it is that, and you can do that by having a plan, you know, that you understand what your goals are. And again, any of you who want help in that, please direct message me, but having that plan and those goals, and then adding to that, Linda, it's so sweet to put out there, I would like to be a manager, and then add in, and I'd like you to help me.
That's right. That's right.
Is an interesting piece too.
Mhm.
Try it out and let me know what the reaction is for those of you who want to be who are interested in gaining more leadership responsibility. Well, we are winding down on this conversation. I've just been so excited about it and so much appreciative. I would like to close us out by asking, and this is a question that, I was going to ask in the very beginning, but I thought, no, I'll wait till the end because people get to know you, they hear you, they've heard from you. I want to ask each of you, what inspired you to become a leader and why? Lee, let's start off with you.
Well, I'm happy to answer that question. I have an older sister who decided to go into computer science and math in college, and this is in the, 70s. And there were not a lot of women doing that and studying that in school.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a role model pretty early on, and she's considerably older than me. So I didn't really grow up with her at home that I can remember. So I always had this little role model there. And my parents encouraged me to do whatever I wanted to do for in high school and pursuing whatever it may be. And then again in college. And I think having, again, a mentor or a role model is one of the first steps. And then I found out when I graduated, my first boss was a woman. Actually, my first probably 3 or 4 supervisors or direct who I reported to were women. Mm-hmm. And I just decided I liked connecting with people. And I thought I had some of those skills. I feel like I'm a pretty good communicator. So I put my name in the hat, basically. Mm-hmm. But it started with role models, and there were continual role models through my career and even in the volunteer world. And to this day, I look at my colleagues here with Linda and Roz and meeting you, Dr. Geneva. You are all role models for me still. And that's how I like to be and who I like to be with. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Rosalind?
Well, my mom was such a strong role model for me. She always instilled in us to work hard and to work in excellence and to demand excellence in your work. And of course, my mother-in-law, just watching all the women who always were around her and how she did so much for so many and how she lifted so many people and put them in key positions and put them on boards. That was very inspiring to me as well. Mm-hmm. But before I get off of that topic, I do want to regress real quickly and say one of the other things that young people should do in their businesses where they work, they should ask their employers if they have professional development funding. Most businesses have a professional development account that they can use for young people to get some of the training that they need for some of those positions that they're going to ask for, like Linda said.
Absolutely. Thank you for reminding us of that, because again, we ask. That's right. Ask your organizations, about their professional development fund and how you can access it, how you can be a part of it, how you can take advantage of it. Thank you, Rosalind, for sharing that. Linda?
So mine, I guess I would say a mixture of 3 things. I was fortunate enough to have 2 teachers as my parents. So they always encouraged me and supported me. They were part of the post-World War II immigration. They came to Canada from England. There was a wave of people that left various parts of Europe, and they were part of that. And so They were very hardworking and, believed you had to really work hard. So they instilled those values in us, but they were very encouraging and supportive. And then I was lucky enough, and I cannot say enough about the importance of teachers and the role that teachers play on individual lives. I was lucky enough to have very supportive teachers that gave me a lot of positive encouragement. And then again, lucky enough to have male bosses who sort of really were, I guess, swimming against the flow in those days. And they encouraged me. They opened up opportunities for me. I can't say enough about the impact that had in giving me opportunities. And then once you've proven yourself once or twice, you actually, then they do think of you for the next position. So those three factors, I would say.
Thank you all for sharing that. I think it's real obvious how the things that happened in your life and influenced you really carry through to your conversation today, the value that you provide and where you've come from. Again, making it crystal clear once again how important it is to have these kinds of conversations among women about women in leadership. Thank you so much, Linda, Lee, and Rosalind, for joining me. Congratulations to you, a phenomenal organization, Leadership Women. Ever since I met you all, it's been a life-changing experience for me. I'm so glad that you're there and helping all of us as women in leadership roles. Thank you.
Thank you as well.
Thank you, Dr. Geneva. We appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. So hasn't it been wonderful to hear from these leaders from across the country and the organization? They left us plenty of value and so much we learned about some of the issues that are facing us as women and leaders, the new ones, but then the pervasive ones that are still with us. But there's new stuff coming. And if you're a younger leader, the next generation of leader, I hope you picked up some tips and got some real good value. Remember, you are a leader and you can be and are and believe that you are the best that you can be. You want to be better? That's good. You want to create more impact? That's cool. All of that is great. And keep on keeping on. And if any of you want help in that, please don't forget to direct message me. I am very delighted to bring you these kinds of conversations, and I'll see you next week, next time.